In my opinion, the Denver Broncos got an absolute steal when they decided to select wide receiver Pat Bryant from Illinois. Going back in time, Bryant was one of the more underrated recruits in the state of Florida, and while he got a lot of recruiting attention, he was not exactly seen as the next big thing. As just a 3-star recruit, Pat Bryant went to a school not known for producing wide receiver talent and went on to become one of the best receivers in school history. He also had a very interesting upbringing, and now is going to be one of the top wideouts for Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. In today's video, we're going to continue my Rookie Spotlight series, as we're going to talk about the journey and rise of Pat Bryant. How did he get to this point? How did he make history at Illinois? And what does his future look like in Denver? But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I'd cover next. Now let's get started and talk about the insane rise of Pat Bryant. So, in order to understand how he got to this point, we first need to go back in time. Growing up in the city of Jacksonville, it was dangerous. Bryant had 2 successful parents, as his mom was a financial aid specialist at the University of North Florida, and his dad was the AD at the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. They kept him on the straight and narrow growing up, and he was always one of the tallest and biggest players in his class. His parents also encouraged athletics to keep their son busy, out of trouble, and competitive. From the age of 3, Bryant was a hardworking kid as he learned commitment and determination. His dad was an organizer of the local YMCA flag football committee, and he had his son start playing there. Pat Bryant would not only play receiver, but also played center, defensive back, and even quarterback. He said, quote, "I've almost played every position on both sides of the ball. I just like scoring touchdowns, and I liked running away from defenders. I used to like contact, but once I realized how easy it was to score a touchdown without contact, I was like, yeah, that's easy." Wide receiver is one of the easiest positions to play on the football field. As I said, he first stepped on the field at the age of 3, and his parents said he was confused at first as he ran in the opposite direction, but he picked it up. His dad was also the coach and did have some doubts about his long-term abilities. Pat Bryant wanted to be just like his older siblings, as he was the youngest of 4, and he got involved in football because that is what his older brother did. There was a 13-year age gap between his oldest brother and himself, and Pat modeled a lot of his childhood after the same things his other siblings did, saying, quote, "I just fell in love with the game of football after watching my brothers grow up playing, going to their high school games, and reliving some of those dreams. The same dreams they had, I am doing now." He played pretty much every sport, as he played football, golf, basketball, tennis, soccer, and even baseball, but basketball was the early favorite for Pat, and he'd make shots on 10-foot rims with ease as just a 5-year-old. His dad said, quote, "I just knew he was going to be a special athlete just by the way he carried himself. He always wanted to compete, and as he got older and older, I knew this is what he wanted to do." Once Pat Bryant entered middle school, he began focusing more and more on football, and he used basketball as a way to stay in shape and have fun with friends, but then he began working even harder to become the best athlete he could possibly be. He then became one of the best wide receivers in that region of Florida, and he had been heavily recruited since his freshman year of high school. He ended up playing for Atlantic Coast High School, and that was one of his best joys, despite the team not having a great record. But one thing was for certain with Pat, is he believed in his teammates and coaches and did not give up on them. He didn't want to be known for switching schools and transferring, and he did not want to be known as someone who gave up on his team, like other athletes had done in the past. It wasn't until high school that Pat realized just how good he was, as his aha moment came when he was invited to a camp that featured some of the top recruits in the state of Florida. He ended up holding his own and impressed a ton of college coaches in attendance. He then saw his recruitment take off, with him saying, quote, "My freshman year of high school, I was just playing football for fun. I didn't really understand what offers were. I knew you could go to college for it, but I didn't really know how it worked. After leaving that camp, that's when I realized I was actually pretty good." During his sophomore season, Bryant had collected double-digit scholarship offers from programs all across the country. Per his mom, they called the recruitment process surreal and overwhelming, but she could not have been prouder to see what he had accomplished. She said, quote, "You watch your child and you know in your eyes your child is great, but to have recruiters coming to the school and mailing stuff to your house, it was very overwhelming." He then decided to make his collegiate decision, as he would choose the Fighting Illini, a school not exactly known for producing big-time wide receivers. He chose them over 20 offers. In total as a junior, Pat Bryant caught 45 passes for 684 yards and 11 touchdowns. The Illinois staff absolutely loved his athleticism, and he chose Illinois over the likes of West Virginia, Florida State, Miami, Iowa, Nebraska, and Penn State. He liked that he had an ability to play early in the Big Ten, and also loved Coach Lovie Smith and the Illini football staff. Over his last 2 seasons, he had combined for 84 catches for 1,300 yards and 16 touchdowns. According to 24/7 Sports, Pat Bryant was a 3-star recruit, the number 148 wide receiver, and the 1,031st best player in the class of 2021. So, how would he end up doing at Illinois? Well, let's take a look. Obviously, Illinois does not produce a ton of wide receiver talent, as they've had a couple of big names like AJ Jenkins, Geronimo Allison, and then most recently Isaiah Williams, but it had been tough sledding. When he first arrived at Illinois, he was looking to make an immediate impact, and he then became the 14th player in school history to start at least 3 games as a wide receiver as a true freshman. He said, quote, "I've never really been the type to follow the hype. I've always wanted to create my own path and create my own destiny. Coming here, I had the same mindset, and my end goal was to get to the NFL. If you're good, the NFL will find you." He ended up having 6 catches for 98 yards across 10 games as a freshman, but odds are if you saw him on the field during the 2021 campaign, he was used to block. He said, quote, "I came in as a freshman just wanting to get on the field. I told them I'd honestly do anything I could to get on the field, and they said to go out there and block, and he wanted to see if I was a physical receiver, and I went out there and did that." Yeah, his first season wasn't great, but Pat Bryant got on the field and got his feet wet. Going into 2022, Bryant's role would increase as he caught a touchdown pass in their first game against Wyoming, and then a couple weeks later, he had his breakout moment. Against FCS Chattanooga, he'd end up catching a career-high 7 passes for 115 yards and another touchdown. He showed his potential there, and to finish out the season, he had a couple of decent games, which included 7 catches against Minnesota and 51 yards against Wisconsin. In total in year 2, Pat Bryant caught 34 passes for 453 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Illini were more of a running team that year, but going into 2023, his role would expand even more. He then ended up catching 6 passes against Toledo and had 2 touchdowns in that win over the Rockets, and then a couple of weeks later, he went on a touchdown streak. He had a touchdown against Purdue, Nebraska, and Maryland in a 3-game stretch, but unfortunately, Illinois was just not winning football games. He was the second best receiver on the team, with Isaiah Williams being at number 1, but he had a couple of cool moments, including 7 catches in a crazy come-from-behind win against Minnesota, and then 5 catches for 131 yards and a touchdown in a wild 48-45 overtime victory over Indiana. To finish out the year, they lost to Iowa, and then he had a touchdown against Northwestern, and they would miss a bowl game. As a junior, Bryant caught 43 passes for 560 yards and 7 touchdowns. He'd been getting better each and every year, and with Isaiah Williams and Tip Raymond off to the NFL, he was now going to be wide receiver 1 for this year. Luke Altmyer was back at quarterback, and Pat Bryant started out strong. He had 2 touchdowns against Eastern Illinois, 70 yards receiving, and a top 25 victory over Kansas, and then went over 100 yards with 2 touchdowns against Central Michigan. The first 3 weeks were great, and he continued it. He had 2 touchdowns and a win over number 22 Nebraska before getting halted against Penn State. Illinois was off to a 4-1 start, and then he went over 100 yards in a win over Purdue, which was crazy, and they won by 1. To finish out his Illinois career, he'd helped them beat Michigan, had 72 yards against Minnesota, 135 yards and a touchdown against Michigan State, and then the game that defined his career, Rutgers. On the road in Piscataway, he caught 7 passes for 197 yards and a touchdown, and helped them get a huge victory there, and then he'd close it out with a touchdown against Northwestern, and Illinois would end up winning 10 games, but he would not participate in their bowl game against South Carolina. In total, Pat Bryant caught 54 passes for 984 yards and 10 touchdowns, and the team captain was tremendous. He tied for 4th in the Big Ten in touchdown passes and 9th in the Illinois record books for single-season touchdown catches. He had a really good season, and in total at Illinois, he had 2,095 yards and 19 touchdowns, and he was named a first-team All-Big Ten selection and a second-team All-American by Phil Steele. Things were looking good for him, and he proved his point. If you're good enough, the NFL will find you, and he stayed loyal. Going into the 2025 NFL Draft, here was an official scouting report on him. One scout said, quote, "Bryant was a staple for Illinois and coach Brett Bielema for multiple seasons. He saw his production increase each year of his college career, culminating with 54 catches for 984 yards and 10 touchdowns in 2024. He caught 17 of them over his final 2 seasons, and he's not straight line fast as he clocked a 4.61 40-yard dash time, but he's known for being a quality route runner and a willing blocker. According to The Athletic, Bryant had just 1 drop on 78 targets in 2024. Basically, he's going to be seen as a steady, reliable player who's not going to make mistakes and has a high floor. Eventually, he was taken in the 3rd round, went pick number 74 by the Denver Broncos, and he became the first player from Atlantic Coast High School to ever be selected in the NFL draft, which is definitely cool. Bryant said, quote, "They know all my attributes. They know what I can do on the field, so my main focus isn't getting to Denver, is to do my job and help the team win." Yeah, he's definitely an interesting prospect, as he ended up running a 4.61 40-yard dash time, which was the 2nd slowest of 39 receivers at the Combine. He's seen as a legitimate red zone target for Denver though, as he has a near 38-inch vertical leap, and he will be a steady set of hands for Bo Nix. He barely dropped any passes, and Bryant said, quote, "I mean, that's how I am as a receiver. My main focus is when the ball is in the air, and I am better than the man that's in front of me." He will join a receiver room that includes Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton, and 2nd-year receiver Troy Franklin, plus their rookie draft pick RJ Harvey from UCF, who will catch passes out of the backfield as a running back. All early indicators are that Pat Bryant has looked pretty good and will be a good weapon for Sean Payton, as he's drawn comparisons to Michael Thomas. Again, while the guy was a little bit slow at the NFL Combine, he has better game speed on tape and is just steady. He's not going to make a lot of mistakes, he comes from a good background, has stayed out of trouble, and I think will be a really good player for them. We'll just have to wait and see, but today we talked about Pat Bryant. If you're a Broncos or an Illinois fan, what do you think of Pat Bryant? How do you think he'll do this season? And which rookie should I cover next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out some of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.